Welcome to 52 weeks of contemplations. This is week 3, and today's contemplative word is boundaries. Boundaries have been on my mind today because it's something that I've been working on for New Year's, which is to start to set boundaries between my work life and my personal life, or even my playtime. As a self-employed person, work can kind of show up everywhere, and then I never really get a break. So starting to create boundaries around my work, which aren't so obvious if you don't have an office and a boss, has been kind of challenging. But I started to think about that great saying. You can see behind me the stone wall, which reminds us that good fences, the saying goes, make good neighbors. And I think good fences in our lives also make for a good life. So boundaries. There's a few ways you can think about boundaries. I think you can address it as I did in life in terms of how we let things bleed over, where we take phone calls, where Twitter and Facebook are showing up. Where is work? Where is play? What are the boundaries between these things? And this kind of goes to the heart of multitasking, which studies now show is a complete lie. And once we move our attention from one thing to another thing, we actually lose a lot of time and a lot of energy. So boundaries might be a way to actually find out how you could give a good focus to something and feel better about what you did. But I think boundaries between our activities would be interesting to notice where you're already living it. The other place I'm interested in boundaries has to do with personal relationships. And I think it's good sometimes to notice the boundaries we have in conversation, places where we go or we don't go, things that are personal, things that are just pleasantries, or when we're really digging in with people. Often these boundaries are unspoken, not laid out in a document, but we all understand. I would get curious this week about where you really notice boundaries in relationships, and you're probably observing them for good reasons, or in your work life. And the last question I have about boundaries, got another great fence behind me, might be where you'd like to create some boundaries. And this has a lot to do for me with whether it's a toxic situation or someone in your life whom you need to limit access. This week, why not look for a new boundary to put in place? Imagine if you could put one new boundary in place in your life that would have a really positive impact and make a difference. Where would you put it? Is it in your work play? Is there someone that maybe, even though you love them, now is not the time to spend time with them because the impact they're having on you isn't beneficial? There's wisdom in these things. It doesn't have to be mean. It's just something to be curious about. So boundaries. Week 3. Take a look at boundaries you're living, boundaries you'd like to create, and see where you can positively impact your life on a daily basis. I'm about to leave the park and cross into another boundary, which is to go back out into the street and head home with my groceries. I'll see you next week with another word for contemplation. Have a great 7 days until I see you again. Bye for now.